But there's more news about Luis Diaz, and it comes from Germany and it comes from Colombia. And the Colombian side is that Luis has a gentleman's agreement that he can leave Liverpool for a fee of £69 million, which is about 80 million euro, and that he is prepared to ask Liverpool to let him leave this summer if he has not done so already. The German side is that his management, which is his father and his agent, are in talks with Bayern Munich. Now, we know that there's interest in Luis from Bayern and from Barcelona, as well as from Saudi Arabia. From Liverpool's point of view, the best thing that could happen is that he goes to Saudi Arabia, because that's where we'll get the most money. From his point of view, Barcelona is probably the dream, but Bayern is probably where he'd make the most money of the two European options. I think Bayern would pay him higher wages than Barcelona. I also think if you go to Bayern Munich, you're guaranteed to win silverware, and I do think that does matter to him as well. Like, you're pretty much guaranteed to win the league every year, barring a catastrophe. Unbeaten. So we should probably plan for the season to come without him. So I think it's very unlikely that he will stay. I've thought that all summer. Thought that since the middle of last season that he'd probably be sold. I've said that repeatedly. He's got 2 years left in his contract. He's 28. We don't want to extend his contract because we don't want to extend him into his 30s, because he's not viewed as that level of player who will maintain an elite level of performance, largely because he hasn't shown a consistent elite level of performance while playing for us thus far. Now, there's a lot of talk about how we would go about replacing him. I think we might have already replaced him. I think Florian Wirtz coming in is the Luis Diaz replacement. So I'm not overly pushed on whether or not we sign a winger. I think if an elite level winger was available, if Bradley Barcola, Desiree Doué, Kvicha Kvaratskhelia, Rodrigo, if one of them was available, great. Go and get them. They'll fit in regardless. Other than that, I'm not really sold on anybody. Certainly wouldn't want Anthony Gordon. Mediocre and hugely overpriced. Only good on the counter. Hopeless against set defenses. Wouldn't be against a young winger like a Malik Fofana. But if you sign him, he's going to be primarily a backup right winger in the interim, because you'll have Wirtz and Cody for the left. And if we're signing someone to play on the right, I'd rather sign Tyler Dibling from Southampton. And he is a player that we've been linked with fairly consistently for the last 6 or 7 months. There are now some people suggesting that it's moving beyond the interest stage. He would make a ton of sense as like a Harvey Elliott replacement / long-term upgrade. He has what Harvey doesn't have, which is the physical gifts. He's 6 foot, he's strong, he's rapid, and he has all the technical gifts, and in my opinion has a higher technical level than Harvey. I think that Tyler Dibling is potentially the best young player in England. Excellent last year in a dreadful Southampton team. And simpletons will say, oh, did he score X goals and got X assists? Did you see the team he was playing in? It's one of the worst teams the Premier League has ever seen. And yet, consistently, he stood out as being very different to the rest of the garbage around him. Him and Matthias Fernandes are the only Southampton players that came out of last season with any credit at all. The rest of them should be ashamed of themselves. If we had Mo and Dibling on the right, Wirtz and Gakpo on the left, then we need 2 strikers. So we can sell Harvey, sell Diaz, and sell Darwin. And this is going to sound very cold, but we will also get an insurance payment for Diogo, because we will have insured him as an asset of the club. And that's going to come to the club as well. So that can go into a pot too. That's separate to the insurance on his contract, which would cover his wages. Now, my belief is the club are not only going to pay out his wages, they're actually going to give double and give the insurance payment as well. But we'll see what happens with that. So his family will be well taken care of, one way or another. But the club will be taken care of as well. Now, you can't replace the human element, but from a monetary point of view, that will be taken care of. Anyway, if we can sell Harvey, Diaz, Darwin, and then take that insurance payment and sign Tyler Dibling, our striker of choice, and a backup. And we all know the striker of choice that the club want is Isak. He is the top choice. If we could get him, and let's say we sign Mikitadze from Lyon for, I don't know, 30 million as a backup. Well, that's a really good front six. And then you've got your young options. You know, we've got Rio, we've got Danz. If he sticks around at the club this year, he may go on loan. We've got the likes of Kumas. Again, he could go on loan. I think Doak probably gets sold. So again, that's money that goes into that pot. So if we get, let's say, I don't know, 20 for Doak, 40 for Harvey, the payout on Diogo might be 30. And again, I know it's cold, but it is something that the club are going to factor in. That's 90. Let's say we get 65 for Diaz. It's 155. And let's say we get 55 on Darwin. That's 210 million that puts us in a really strong position. If we get Dibling for around 35, you might even be able to send them Tyler Morton in a deal because they've had interest in him before. And that'd be a great move for him. Let's say 25 and Morton. Mikitadze for 30. It's 55. You've got 210. It's more than enough to get Isak. It is. It's more than enough to get him. And then your only expense in terms of the forward line is Florian Wirtz. Now, it's a big expense, admittedly, but it will be your only expense in the forward line. The rest of it, you will have broken even financially. You'll probably have brought the wage bill down because Dibling would come in on probably less than Harvey. Mikitadze's wage, I would imagine, is less than Diogo was on. And Isak's wage, I think Darwin and Diaz combined would cover it. Now, obviously, then there is the Wirtz wage to take into account, but it's fine. Like, Thiago left a year ago and opened up a big salary slot. Trent left this summer, opened up a big slot. Robbo might go this summer. That's another big slot. Matip left a year ago. That was another big slot. So our wage bill should stay in and around where it was, even with the signings of Kirkes and Frimpong and Mamardashvili. Our wage bill shouldn't rise much, if at all. And if we do that in attack, that is that attack boxed off for the next few years. There wouldn't really be any need to do much of anything. Now, you could sell Cody in a year, and maybe at that point you look to bring in a Fofana if he stays at Lyon. So you move Cody out, bring Fofana in. Financially, that should, cover. They should cover each other. Fofana will be on lower wages than Gakpo, you'd imagine. We should, again, be in really good shape. Then the following summer, you might have to look for a replacement for Mo. Maybe Dibling's ready to step in and become the starter. Or maybe they start to share the role for a year. Mo sticks around to chase more records. But our forward line would be pretty much set. And then in midfield, we've got Dom, we've got Curtis. So the 10 spot is taken care of, and Wirtz can play there, and Gakpo could play there, and Dibling could play there. Mikitadze could play there. You have loads of options. Alexis can play there. Then you've got Alexis, and ideally Gravenberch is the backup to Alexis because he's an 8, not a 6. And that's the role that would suit him best. He's just not as good a player as Alexis, so Alexis will be the starter. We need to buy a 6 and then have, say, Endo and McConnell as the backups there. But we need to buy a 6. We've known that all along. At the back, right back, should be set now for the next couple of years. Frimpong and Bradley. I do think in a couple of years, Bradley probably moves on if he's not the starter. Likewise, if Frimpong's not the starter, I think he'd move on. Kirkes at left back. We will need an alternative there in a year or so, but this summer, either Costas or Robbo will leave. I think Robbo should be the one to go. I think it makes more sense to sell him now, get a fee, sell Costas in a year, get another fee, rather than selling Costas this summer for a similar fee to what he get next summer, and then losing Robbo for nothing next year. Centre-back, we've got work to do. We do have work to do. We know Mark Wehi's one the club really like, and Leone is apparently one. Nathan Zeze's name I've seen mentioned as well. So it looks like we do want to bring in potentially 2 centre-backs, a 3rd centre-back, and a 5th centre-back. So Guehi would be the 3rd, Gomez the 4th, and then you bring in that 5th one, and then maybe Gomez goes next summer. So still a lot of work to do to get the squad up to where you'd imagine the club wanted to be, to have 2 strong options in every position. But obviously things have been thrown off track, and I would doubt that anything ever really stopped. We likely put a pause on things for a few days. But I think there's going to be a period now here as well where the club are going to be quite respectful of Diogo's memory and not look to do deals in the next week or 2. I think they'll want to put some distance between his passing and when the next player arrives. And one of the things to consider, which me and Carl talked about yesterday, is, last season we had Chiesa, who I think is another one that can be sold. We had Mo and Chiesa, we had Diogo and Darwin, we had Diaz and Gakpo, plus Harvey. So we really had 7 forwards. It could be a thing where we go into next season with 6, and the way they're lined up, it doesn't look like any one of them was a Diogo Jota replacement. Because for any player to come in with that tag is unfair pressure to add to them. It's an unfair expectation. So you could look at it more directly as Isak as a Darwin replacement, Wirtz as a Diaz replacement, Dibling as an Elliott replacement, Mikitadze as a Chiesa replacement, and we don't quote-unquote replace Diogo, because truthfully, you can never replace what we lost with that fella and how we lost it. And I know it sounded cold to talk about insurance payouts, but believe me, these conversations are going to be taking place. That is just the way the world works. It's not fair, but none of this is fair.